American soccer is weird here on Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. He's Jason. There's been a lot of speculation on MLS's teasing of switching to the European calendar currently and have always gone from spring to fall. A couple months ago, they teased that they were thinking about switching to the fall to spring calendar to align with the European transfer windows and schedules and international windows and whatnot. And there's a lot of back and forth. There seems to be pros and cons to both of these setups. I kind of wanted to go through and kind of really hammer those down, what the true pros and cons of that, and then what could have been had this the new tournament, this new calendar been instilled after World Cup 2026.
Yeah. Rob came to me with an idea for part of this, and we'll have some fun. But I do think it is interesting to break down the pros and cons of the calendar switch, Robin, and we maybe touched on these a bit when this whole saga played out last week. By the way, I wrote kind of on the opinion havers and why on my newsletter, which you can find at Jason Davis Soccer Eagle. Go type that into your Google machine or your search engine, and you should be able to find the newsletter. You can sign up, and maybe once a week you'll get something scribbled down by me, typed out. It'll be easier to read. We did talk about some of the pros and cons, but maybe delineating them, specifically in this moment. All right. You mentioned this already, right? This is number one for a lot of people. Line up the transfer windows. Now, right now, there's a lot of overlap in transfer windows between European football and American soccer. But the difference, of course, is that when MLS teams are preparing for their season, European clubs are in the middle of their season. Yeah. And when MLS teams are in the middle of their season, European clubs are preparing for their season. And that makes it tougher to execute a transfer. And it obviously puts a lot of pressure and stress on players who, when they make the transfer, something you mentioned the other day with Kevin De Bruyne, I think, Rob, which is they're being asked to make a transfer in the summer and just play right away. Just come in and play. You don't get any preseason. You don't get your time off, really. You and sometimes there are guys that'll make the move, and it's like, oh yeah, he's coming over, but he's going to take 2 weeks. And he's going to go to Saint-Tropez. Meanwhile, that MLS team is like, we're playing games. You got to get over here because we need your help. We can't score goals or whatever it is. So
we need to get in the top 9 of our league.
That's right. We're in 10th. You got to come help us. We got to get into the top 9. I think that is definitely a pro. The idea of lining up those transfer windows to facilitate business with leagues that operate on that calendar. Now, there are leagues that don't, operate on that same exact calendar, who you will sort of be, again, disconnecting from. But I think it seems pretty clear that the CSOs of Major League Soccer, in a mostly consensus kind of way, like this idea.
Yeah, the transfer windows align. It helps players come over at more natural times. Uniformity with the leagues. International breaks would align. Depending on how they took a winter break, the January international camp may, I don't know. If there's a break there that may or may not go away.
You're not care about that.
No.
Not a concern. I mean, if U.S. Soccer doesn't get to do a January camp, I don't think it'll be a great big loss. But yes, in general, international breaks also part of this. Let's move on to number 2 because I don't want to belabor too many of these.
All right, what are the cons of?
Oh no, I got more pros. I just think we need to get to another pro.
All right, what's the other pro?
One of the other pros gets mentioned all the time as well. In a country where getting any attention for soccer is difficult, especially when you're playing domestic league soccer rather than, the World Cup or something, when you play your most important games of the year. And by the way, international break is part of the story too, because MLS tends to play some playoffs, take a big break with the international November window, and then have to come back and try to restart momentum. When you play your most important games during a time of the year when most of the sports conscious country is watching American football, it doesn't feel smart from a business perspective, from a growth perspective. So if you flip the calendar, then you would have the ability to get away from American football. Now, and by the way, the World Series also in that playoff period as well. So the end of the baseball season, football season, those are problems. I think it's not like you would just have a free runway and you would be the only game in town. There are other things happening in May and June that would grab some attention, but that is an idea.
Another pro to this would be what? I'm trying to think of what else would. I mean, those are big ones. Obviously, I don't want to belittle those things you mentioned. Those are
one more pro, and this is climate. Climate can work both ways, right? For this question, we're going to get to the cons, and weather will be a con. But in terms of a pro, playing through the summer and playing in places like Orlando and Houston and Miami and Dallas, it's hot. Rob, it's hot. I don't know what it's like in summer up in Michigan, but it is hot. And down
June and
here,
July and first part of August are crazy.
South of the Mason-Dixon line, you walk outside and you're drenched in sweat in about 3.5 seconds. And it's really hard to play dynamic, attractive soccer in that weather. Everything slows down to a crawl. And I think quality-wise, MLS would definitely benefit from having more games in more temperate weather. The problem is, of course, there are large stretches of the calendar, if you flip it over, where you're not playing in temperate weather, or you can't play in any northern city. It's just flipping over where it's worse to play soccer.
Mark in the chat, new soccer fan here. Last year, the MLS playoffs dragging on with the international breaks broke my interest in watching the final. That goes to that international break. MLS has tried to dodge around that quite a few times, but no matter how they formatted it, that international break in November, really throws a wrench in the works. So cons, winter weather, obviously the huge one. There's been lots of back and forth with in the commentary, like winter weather. I mean, obviously you can massage the schedule, have a break, play some of those border games of that break in the warmer cities. But also I think a con that comes to me is there's not a lot of tradition in American soccer. And for those folks who have built a tradition of going to the games and, maybe certain weekend, the 4th of July, they always go to the game or this or that and the other. We have 20 in certain cities. There's, 2 decades plus of American soccer tradition, and switching that up might derail some of those established traditions in a country where we don't have too many.
Yeah, and this is something I wrote about in my newsletter piece, that there are lots of people, and I imagine lots of people in our chat today watching the show, whose lives on some level center around their soccer team. And when you are planning your year out, and it kind of lines up, right? It's like we come out of Christmas or we come out of the holiday season, we start the new year, it's January, you sit down and you're like, so what are we going to do this year? You want to go on vacation? What are we going to spend our expendable income on? And you're like, oh, well, we got to buy season tickets for the local team, the MLS team, like we do every year, right? We go out every year, and some people are supporters, and this is part of their social fabric, right? It's not just I go watch my team. It's I go watch my team with my people. And if you say to those people, hey, guess what? We're completely upending the rhythms of your life. Those people aren't going to be like, yep, sign me up. They're going to be like, no, that's going to change. I'm not going to do it anymore because this doesn't fit the calendar of my life. Now, the question for MLS is, should you care about those people over whatever pros you see in switching the calendar? I do think this is a big one, though. I really do think this is a big one.
Yeah. What if the tradition is on summer vacation, my kids, once they're out of school, we go to every game? Stuff like that is definitely worth considering. And then I think, this story comes back up because MLS, made a press release saying that, like, we're not going to do it in 2026. We're kicking the can down the road. And a lot of people are saying that would have been an amazing time to start a whole new format right after the World Cup on home soil. But the thing that I'm most upset about, obviously that launch after the World Cup would have been great, but there would have been a dead spring in the calendar in America. And I feel like that is such a missed opportunity. This could have been a summer spectacular, most extreme American soccer spectacular tournament where it's no holds barred. We can Americanize everything to the hilt. It's a one-off. It's like a reintroduction, a rebranding of American soccer, if you will. And I mean, you could have flamethrowers, you could have monster trucks, cheerleaders, like 2-pointers,
So
all the
I need to
things.
know. I need to know if the Ultras are on board with your very Americanized soccer tournament idea,
This
because
would be the place to get the MLS shootout back in there too.
you know it. I try not to be too apologetic about our American tendencies towards spectacle and all of these things, right? We did have an issue about bounce houses. You and I kind of did not agree on that. You were more of a pro bounce house person than me when we talked about Buffalo. Uh, I, I I do have that thing, a little bit of shame around the idea of like, oh, it's overly American and the Europeans are going to tisk us and all that stuff. You're English. You should be the one that brings that aesthetic to the table. And instead, it's me sitting here going, no, I don't want to be too American.
But
But
imagine
yeah,
if this is the opportunity. This is just a one-time thing. There will never be another time where there's just a 3-4 month gap
well,
before
okay.
World
As
Cup.
long as long as we don't go too far. And by the way, if you want to see an American, what seems like an Americanized version of the sport, and I think there are multiple kinds of this now, but the Kings League and the Queens League, which is what PK is doing over there in Spain. If you don't know about that, go watch a little bit of that. That feels like what an American marketing team would come up with in order to sell the sport of soccer.
Yeah, no doubt. We're like the final minute of the match. There's like a dice that gets rolled out, and it's like
Yes.
whatever like mini game that is decides the game. And there's also like the baller league. I've seen Micah Richards do it, but this is I threw my ideas for the most Americanist soccer tournament into the AI machine, and I got a few different aesthetics out of this. And there's some fun here.
Okay, so uncanny valley stuff is part of the AI image creation process every single time. It always makes me uncomfortable. I just want to get that on the record. I guess that's supposed to be Don Garber, the bald smiling man. He's on the billboard. We have some sort of rock band. They wear suits. And then there's cheerleaders. I guess
It's
their
a
heads are
legacy
not.
act, rock band. It's a legacy act.
Those cheerleaders' heads are not on right. In fact, those
Look at the
cheerleaders.
bottom right, cheerleaders.
I think there's some wardrobe issues, which I do not want to address. Okay, let's leave those bottom right who have flame arms. Why do they have flame arms? Okay, so but I don't know why you did this, Rob. There's another. There's another one. And by the way, AI cannot spell when it creates an image. It cannot. It's impossible for it to spell correctly.
Just imagine the Mercedes-Benz Arena with like the Saudi El Halal versus LAFC, and there's just flamethrowers, monster trucks, DJs, everything you could imagine.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Let's go. People are getting burned in
Look
the
at that
crowd
flamethrower.
in this one. That's also not the proper dimensions for a soccer field. I'm gonna point that out. I'm gonna point that out. So, how do the monster trucks flying into the stadium? Is that maybe the idea of this one for
I think
the
they might be parachuting.
extremte? I don't think that's a real word.
That's not
What
Spanish or Portuguese or something.
once in time, not. No, I don't know, man. I mean, okay, so
It's at the Colossal Arena.
it is at the Colossal Arena. I think you have one or two more here. This is elite again. So I guess that's just an absolutely brolic Don Garber, just absolutely jacked. He's been hitting the gym. He's got some Jeff Bezos energy happening.
Sinister, babe. That's real sinister.
Are those broadcast desks? Again, I don't know what's happening here. There's fireworks happening. Okay, anyway,
It's everything to appease the bald commissioner here. Everything's to appease him.
Yeah, that's Robert's idea.
There's one more. My very favorite one is still to go. Hopefully you loaded it in.
I think I missed that one somehow.
Oh,
I
no.
think it didn't get in, so I apologize for that. What was your favorite one? Describe it for us.
Oh my goodness. I'll have to like hold it up on my phone or something here. Is my favorite one out of the whole bunch.
Okay, give me a second. Maybe so you just respond to some people in the chat, let them know give them some love, and then I will bring in the other one because I do think I can do it very, very quickly.
All right, Zach in the chat said the only thing that needs is a bear riding a motorcycle. Michael, these are amazing, and flame cannons are a favorite for me. And there's one. That one really makes me happy. But it was the billboard. Oh, you already got to that. The billboard with the rock band. You already got to that. But this one, a whole lot of fun. I mean, monster trucks, soccer, fireworks. What's not to love? And this one even includes some teams along the bottom. in
Those
case you were
teams,
wondering.
those aren't sponsors. Those are teams because it looks vaguely like an Adidas-like logo. But you're right. Maybe those are teams, misformed animals and things like that.
They're the guest teams to join the Major League Soccer teams in the most intense, extreme American soccer tournament spectacular 2026. You robbed us, MLS. What could have been?
I think I'm more intrigued by your idea about the rules going out the window on some level. Not the rules. I mean, we still play outdoor 11v11. We play normal soccer, but maybe we do things like the 30-yard shootout. Maybe there are some tweaks here or there. I don't know. I mean, it could be very American. Full on halftime shows. By the way, we did not get to this in long balls, but since we're talking extravaganza and halftime show, I believe Lincoln Park is set to play the
We
Champions
talked about
League.
that, but it's confirmed. It's confirmed.
So crazy. That is so wild. All right, Rob, I think that's enough of your madcap idea.
We got one more from a member, though. Shark tanks surrounding the pitch might be needed for.
I think that was what that was. I think we kind of had a vague Shark Tank situation with the Shark Tank. Okay, I see. Actual Shark Tanks. Yeah, you're right. We do need that. We need animals somehow involved. Bears chained to the benches or something. I don't know.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for participating in that. What could have been in 2026. If you want more action like this, subscribe. We crested the 2,000 subscriber mark and only looking to keep on growing that. So if you haven't hit subscribe already, do so now. It doesn't cost a thing unless you want to contribute to the show and add a membership. But you don't have to, though, if you don't want to just yet. But some perks to those who get the membership. Your comments get on screen and maybe some bonus content and some other perks for members. You can follow along on social media at MKickaround, X, Instagram, Blue Sky. Write us a note at morningkickaround@gmail.com. And then you can also follow us as a podcast. Search Morning Kickaround on your favorite podcast platform. All right, we are moving into, and there's also coffee.com/morningkickaround if you'd like to support the show there.